Good afternoon. I first want to say thank you to all of our media partners for coming out here and being with us today as we announce a joint operation that was conducted this morning with the FBI and the Jacksonville Police Department and Columbia County Sheriff's Office. This morning, Ronnie Lee Hyde, age 60, was arrested at approximately 6:30 a.m. near his home in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. He was arrested for a murder that the Columbia County Sheriff's Office has been investigating since 1994. We have a few details that I'd like to read to you, if y'all can bear with me for a minute. Sunday, June the 4th, 1994, the victim's body was found behind a dumpster at a gas station located on 441 and I-10 in Columbia County. The victim was missing the head, the hands, and his legs. A thorough on-scene investigation was conducted by detectives and were unable to identify the victim or a potential suspect. Requests for information through the media, through citizens and other law enforcement agencies were made at the time, but the victim could still not be identified. The Jacksonville Medical Examiner's Office performed an autopsy of the victim and found that he was a white male under the age of 25 years old and in good health. Dr. William Maples, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Florida, was contacted to conduct an exam of the victim to further narrow down the age. He was able to determine that the victim was approximately 16 to 19 years old at the time of death. The initial detective team continued investigating over the next 18 years. In 2012, this case was reassigned to a new detective here at the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. In 2013, a CCSO detective spoke with representatives from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children who offered their assistance with this case. In 2014, a flyer was drafted for this case and posted on their national website. The website allows the public to search for missing and unidentified children or child victims across our nation. In September of 2015, the Sheriff's Office received a call from family members of a 16-year-old white male who had been missing from Jacksonville since 1994. Jacksonville Sheriff's Office had taken a missing person report on this male February of 1995. Detectives with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office met with the family of the missing Jacksonville boy in 2015, September of 2015. Detectives sent DNA samples from family members to the University of North Texas Human Identification Laboratory to see if there was a familiar link to the 1994 victim. In February of 2016, the lab confirmed a familiar link between the family and the yet identified victim. This and other information developed throughout the investigation led to a positive identification of the victim, who was 16 years old at the time of his disappearance. At the approval of the family, the public identification of the victim was withheld as our investigation continued. The victim found on June the 5th, 1994, has been positively identified as that of Fred Paul Laster, 16-year-old boy from Nassau County, Florida, who went missing from Jacksonville, Florida in 1994, June of 1994. Fred's immediate surviving family has been notified of this arrest, and they are in our thoughts and prayers. The family has asked the members of the media to grant them some privacy and understanding as they go through this difficult time. The state attorney from the Fourth Circuit has worked closely with the investigation team, securing warrants and ensuring that they have what they need for a successful prosecution. I want to say that I'm extremely proud of the detectives that worked on this difficult case, the dedication and professionalism of the initial team of investigators. All the way through, the present team has enabled the family to have some closure. I want to especially thank Chief Patrick Dooley of Jacksonville Beach PD for his department's assistance in the arrest and making of his headquarters available to our detectives and to our teams that are over there. I also want to say thank you to FDLE. When this case got reassigned back in 2012, Detective Jimmy Watson with our agency and April Glover were leads on it at the time. And through the new technologies and the things that were developed, we're able to pursue this along with the FBI and FDLE. I mean, we just had a lot of people that have worked on this. We actually brought in the previous case workers, the people that worked on this case that had since retired, and it brought it to a successful resolution. At this time, I'm going to be followed by Melissa Nelson, who is the State Attorney for the 4th Circuit.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melissa Nelson. I'm the State Attorney for the 4th Judicial Circuit, which includes Clay, Nassau, and Duval counties. Today, as Sheriff Hunter just told you, an arrest warrant was served on 60-year-old Ronnie Leon Hyde of Jacksonville Beach. A search warrant was also served on Hyde's residence in Jacksonville Beach. Hyde is currently in custody and is being charged with the 1994 murder of 16-year-old Fred Paul Laster. I want to applaud the perseverance of the Columbia County investigators for their unrelenting pursuit of the truth in this matter, which has occurred over 2 decades. The hard work and collaboration of the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Cold Case Squad at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, the Jacksonville Beach Police Department, the U.S. Postal Inspector, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the University of Florida, the University of North Texas, is what brings us here. Today marks an important and long-awaited moment for Fred Laster's siblings and marks the beginning of our prosecution of their brother's murder. This is a reminder that justice has no expiration date, and we, my office, intends to continue the hard work of our law enforcement partners to deliver long-delayed justice. I'll be followed by Charles Spencer of the FBI.
Again, I'd like to recognize Sheriff Hunter and his crew, your detectives working on this. Your community should be very proud that they are served by professionals like yourself. Working in this 23 years, aside from where we are today, the detectives working this case, working with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, have identified 5 other living children and reunited them with their family over the course of this 23-year investigation. They've worked tirelessly, they've worked relentlessly, and that's what has got us here. Charges are filed, but the work is continued. Right now, members of the FBI's Jacksonville's Evidence Response Team are conducting searches of 2 properties owned by Ronnie Leon Hyde, one on 4th Street in Jacksonville Beach, one on Thelma Street in Jacksonville. The search operations are extensive. They began shortly after he was taken into custody. We searched the property, confirmed no one else was inside, then established search teams in and around the house. I'm not going to elaborate on what kind of evidence we're looking for or what we have found, but the extensive search using the most technologically advanced methods available today are occurring right there, right now. The search could take several days. No stone will be left unturned, you can rest assured. I asked the neighbors in adjoining properties to have patience with us. There is no current threat or no ongoing threat. That threat is resolved. There's no threat to the community, but have patience with us for the disruption and for our people operating there. I want to extend my thanks to Chief Dooley from Jacksonville Beach for being gracious host to the FBI Evidence Response Team and helping us out. And we will provide updates through the media, through our media outlets, as the search continues. Also, I'm asking the public for help today. Hyde's resided primarily in the Jacksonville area since his birth. He's traveled frequently throughout the United States and abroad. During the course of this homicide investigation, we determined that Hyde was a named subject in a previous international child exploitation case. We've also learned that throughout his various positions and jobs in the Jacksonville area, we have obtained that he had a potential for additional child victims, as he had access to children in multiple positions that he held throughout the area. Right now, we're urging anyone to come forward and contact the FBI if they know anyone who could potentially have been a victim of Mr. Hyde. We're going to provide a bulletin that will be provided to all the media outlets that explains what to do and how to contact us. But if you think you have been victimized or you know someone who potentially could have been victimized by Mr. Hyde, we urge you to call the FBI office in Jacksonville Division. Our phone number is 904-248-7000, 904-248-7000. 7,000. It's going to be manned 24/7 by FBI agents that can take the information. This has been a great partnership of all these agencies here, and I think Florida as a whole should be proud that everyone's come together and got us here today after 23 years of hard work. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Hunter.
Thank you, Charles. At this time, we will take a few questions, and do understand that this is an ongoing and active investigation, and some of the information will be limited on what we're allowed to divulge.
Sure, good afternoon. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
help us understand the connection between Ronnie Hyde and Fred Lester?
They were, I believe it was social acquaintances is the way that he was a social acquaintance of the family.
And beyond that, do we know what sort of aggravated the scenario that ultimately led to Mr. Lester's death, or how we got here if they were just social acquaintances?
All that'll come out as we progress through the investigation. Okay.
How did you link Hyde to Lester?
Through the investigation process and connecting where the boy came from and social contacts and through some really good investigative work.
Is it because of what you're saying, he might have molested, been involved with other children as well at the time? Is this a sexual type thing that had happened? Was he picking up children and molesting them and then killing them in the international way?
At this time, I can't elaborate on that. I know that there's an active and ongoing investigation. I do want to say this. What we need to understand here is that this is a 23-year-old homicide. This happened 23 years ago. We have since that time been able to, we've got technological advances that have allowed our investigators to be able to pull some things out and follow up on those leads. And it's just like any other cold case. You know, when we get that piece of information, all it takes is that one spark of information that can lead to a successful arrest. And there's a lot of what ifs, and we call them rabbit holes. You know, these investigators, they chase a lead down till there is nothing left. And sometimes we go to a dead end and they have to turn around and start again. We look for another spark or another lead. So there's a lot more to come out, and we will be giving some additional updates on this case as the information becomes available and as we are allowed to be able to put that out. Because the worst thing we could do is put out information that would be able to be dismissed, and this gentleman be able to walk from this case.
I know he was a counselor. Were they professionally connected? And I'm sort of saying that in the vein of there may be people who are patients of Mr. Hyde concerned.
Well, the thing about this is you know, we have not established the exact relationship as far as counseling and all of that at this time, and those things will come out as we progress through the investigation. Yes, sir.
The day of death that you have there is June 5th, 1994. Why didn't you say that there was a missing child report filed in 1995? Why was it there that time?
All that's being will come out as we move forward. And understand the times were different and the technologies were different, where that we entered missing people or missing children at the time. And I will tell you this: I cannot say enough about the Missing Children and Information Center, the nationwide Missing Children and Abused Children Center that we went through. They were phenomenal in helping us break this case by getting the information out. And some of the technologies we've improved on, and some of the past practices weren't as near as well as what we have today. So, you know, we can go back and look and say, you know, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda, and you know, that's part of it. We have to pick up the pieces and keep moving forward and trying to find additional information.
Did the family come forward right away and say our son is missing, or was there
Well, once the bulletin went out, the family did contact our agency and said that, hey, we had a missing person. So that was part of the investigative process, was to be able to go back and link that to where is it possible that he was over here. So once again, through good detective work, and I'm going to tell you something, partnering with the agencies, FDLE, they had an agent over here with us. The FBI, we hit a point where that our resources and our assets, we need additional assets, and that's the neat thing about having the FBI available to us, where that they have nationwide assets and abilities that we cannot afford in these rural counties up here. So partnering with them, and then, you know, people don't understand what we call the brotherhood of law enforcement. You know, and it's just like going over to Jacksonville Police Department or to the, you know, to their community over there. It's a small community, and when you take an operation like this and you implant it over there, it's very disruptive. But I can't say enough good about Chief Dooley for accepting us and allowing us to come in, but that seems to be the way it is always whenever we have a major event like this. We're always welcome to come in, and they're wanting to help, and we're wanting to put the people that don't need to be in our community where they need to be.
Sheriff,
So-
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the sort of the Lake City connection? You mentioned that he's from Nassau County, is that
Right.
right? Talk to us a little bit about that, how this ended here.
Well, I really do not want to elaborate at this time as to how that he got here, as that's part of the investigative process. So, like I say, we will be giving some updates, but right now this is preliminary. You know, the FBI has got a lot of assets over there right now that they brought in, and thank you, Charles, for bringing all that here. A lot of new technologies and things like that they're putting in over there, which is going to help us solidify some of the questions that we have. And so I don't want to put anything out right now that may be misleading or not factual, okay?
Understanding that, Sheriff, though, real quick, if I can, when I think of, 1994, I'm thinking, the internet was just starting out, so, and I know social networks weren't really around, so can you elaborate, you mentioned that they knew each other socially, so any way you can explain a little bit more about that?
Times were different back then, and you have to understand that relationships were a lot different back then. We didn't have the social media where people went out and met. They may meet socially at community functions or community gatherings or through activities that are going on in the community. So, you know, at this time we're still putting some of all those things together, but we've got a lot of unanswered questions ourselves that we're trying to put together, and I hope that the media will work with us. And as we get this information, we will give additional releases out to you so that y'all can get the story on out, okay? And I want to just say thank y'all, but we need to step out back and do some. Do what?
Just why the FBI is involved?
Understand that the FBI has broader jurisdiction along with FDLE. And whenever we have these types of cases that cross jurisdictional boundaries, we bring all of those assets in to ensure that we can have full prosecution, okay?
Where would this be prosecuted? I mean,
Right now, it's going to be in the
Jacksonville
right now in the Fourth Circuit.
And where else are they searching?
Wherever it leads us.
Well, I mean, are there other places in Jacksonville, do we understand?
At this time,
Can we do this in front of the mics?
Okay.
Can we just answer, yes, Sheriff,
Let me just say that wherever the evidence takes us, and it's just like whenever this investigation started, if we get a lead, we're going to follow up on it. And we're going to follow this thing all the way through. If something comes on our radar screen that we can go down and ensure that this is going to be a successful prosecution, we're going to do that. If it leads us to another location, to other evidence, then that's what we're going to do.
Should
Okay?
parents talk to their kids tonight?
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We'll get back with you, and we'll have y'all some media packets so that y'all have the information that we have now on hand.
Should parents talk to their kids tonight? I mean, that's.
Parents should always talk to their kids. That should be an ongoing thing as a parent does. This case highlights, obviously, a heinous crime, but we want the community to know that they are safe because of the law enforcement effort that goes on nationwide. We are no strangers to these efforts of protecting our citizens. This just happened to be a very heinous crime that we've closed today. I will add that if you have any need for documents, I'm going to give you some list here for future media requests. As the sheriff said, we are working with the best of the best, and we've compartmentalized our information. If it's case history, that's the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. If it is court documents or updates to state charges, that will be the SAO in the 4th Judicial Circuit. That's the 4th in Jacksonville. Anything about the media staging area in Jacksonville Beach, obviously that would be the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. And on the daily search schedule, as the FBI Special Agent in Charge mentioned, there are 2 search efforts going on. As the sheriff just said, it's going to go on as long as there's evidence to be obtained. So you need to contact them with any questions about the search. Thank you.
Is it common, I mean, this seems like all this search effort and the multiple locations, it seems indicative of there being concerns there's more victims than just Mr. Laster. Is it common for this kind of case to have all that going on, or is this a longer road, you believe, in a repeat offender?
We don't know, and that's exactly why we're checking. We're gonna check everything we can. We want to make sure, first off, that we have a solid case on the 1994. But beyond that, we owe it to the community to ensure that we do a thorough investigation in this and make sure that there are no other victims. We don't know at that time. That will come out as the investigation
So you
continues.
can't say no, but you can't say yes.
We just simply don't know. And as the sheriff alluded to before, this is an active and ongoing investigation. Not that we won't find out more or charges will change. Those things are dictated by the state attorney and the evidence that is given to them. So we're going to monitor this closely. We will be pushing information out as we get it. But at this time, you have basically what we have.
Is there evidence or a reason to believe that this is serial in nature?
Not that I'm aware of.
Sergeant?
I mean, we're talking about a person who has lived amongst people for 60 years. Who knows what their background's what we're gonna find in their background. But we are doing a very thorough check. Like I said, that's one of the reasons we bring in all these other agencies. This is a very big effort, and I can't say enough about the FBI with the help they've given. But anytime that a local agency like ours has a case like this, we're gonna get help. FDLE, FBI, and also Jacksonville.
We see homicides, unfortunately, too often, but this is a larger, for lack of a better term, sort of investigation or production than we see with many others. And so what's a distinct factor in this one that's prompting all of that extra work?
I would say the age of the crime and the steps it took to get here. So other than that, we'll just have to let it play out. But I appreciate y'all.
Sergeant, do you know, I don't know if anybody can answer it, but do you know if the church where he was working and was notified of his arrest or his, background?
We don't know the extent, quote, if he was working for a church. We do know that he was affiliated with some church in some way, and that church has been notified.
Was he working with the Department of Corrections as well as a counselor?
My understanding was he did have a license to counsel for the state.
For the Department of Corrections, was it here in
That
Lake
was-
City?
No, not that I'm aware of. I believe it was over in Jacksonville. But again, some of those things will be coming out here pretty soon.